On December 12th of 2025, earlier this year, we lost Bob Burns. Now, I didn't talk about it here on the show because I honestly didn't quite know what to say about it. As much as I always wanted to, I never had a chance to meet or even communicate with Bob Burns, but I certainly knew who he was. I don't think you could be a Monster Kid without knowing who the man was. He appeared in a number of productions. He had done a number of audio commentaries. He'd written some books and some columns. But most importantly, I think, is he was an archivist. He was somebody who collected and maintained props and costume pieces from the monster movies and the sci-fi movies that we absolutely love. And every time I saw an interview with him, every time I read anything about him or met with a friend or talked with a friend who had actually had a chance to spend time with him, I always kept thinking, man, I really, really want to meet this guy someday. Well, sadly, that never happened. Like I said, he passed away earlier this year. He was preceded in death by his wife, Kathy Burns, who was as much a part of the Bob Burns image, I suppose, mythos, lore, as Bob himself was. And you get that feeling when you watch the documentary Beast Wishes, which was a film co-directed by Frank Dietz and Trish Geiger. Now, Frank has actually been on Monster Kid Radio in the past, and he talked about that. He's an actor, an animator, a writer, a filmmaker, and another big old Monster Kid. And actually, I haven't had Frank on in forever. I'd like to get him back on, but that's neither here nor there. Kathy and Bob were an integral part of the Monster Kid community. And like I said, I just didn't know what to say when Bob had passed, or even what to say when Kathy had passed earlier. Well, I was doing some digging through one of my hard drives and found that I have a recording from 2019 when Frank brought his film Beast Wishes to the Hollywood Theater in Portland, Oregon. He gave me permission to record the Q&A after the film. The Q&A was conducted by Greg Hamilton, who is a Portland film curator, and joining Frank on stage was effects artist Chris Wallace, as well as special effect and makeup artist John Goodwin. It was a fun Q&A. I mean, the screening was fantastic. I'd already seen the documentary Beast Wishes. It was fun to see it on the big screen the way that we did, but the Q&A was a lot of fun. And now that I have some better audio tools at my disposal, I was able to take that recording of the Q&A, which admittedly probably wasn't the best recording in the world, and tweak it enough to make it something that I'm proud to share with you, listeners of Monster Kid Radio and Bride of Monster Kid Radio. So that's what we're going to have this week. I really appreciate Frank giving us permission to record that Q&A oh so many moons ago. Rest in peace, Bob Burns. To kick off episode 57 of the podcast devoted to the classic and sometimes not so classic genre cinema of yesteryear with the song The Quiet Beach. It's from the band The Death Surfers. You can find it on their album Back in Time, and you can find them at thedeathsurfers.bandcamp.com. The Death Surfers are a surf band out of Paris, France, and they've given us permission to play their music here on the show. Make sure you check them out when you're done listening to the podcast and let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. My name is Derek M. Cook. I'd like to welcome you to the show. I'm excited this week, as I am excited every single week, but this week I feel like we're finally doing our bit to honor the legacy of Bob and Kathy Burns. If you haven't had a chance to see the documentary Beast Wishes, I highly recommend it. And the last time I checked, it is available on Amazon Prime for streaming. It might be available on some other streaming platforms. If you do get a chance to check it out, you might actually watch it before you listen to the Q&A, because the Q&A does reference a few specific things from the documentary, but is not exclusively about the documentary. There's some talk about just the community that Bob and Kathy helped to create and engender and grow within the Monster Kid community. And it's a fascinating talk. Frank's a great guy, and Greg Hamilton did a great job leading the Q&A as well. Chris and John are also a lot of fun to listen to. You know who else is fun to listen to? Mark Matzke with his Beta Capsule review, as we get another installment in his walk through every single episode of every single Ultraman series. We are still on Ultraman Taro, and it's super cool. So we've got that coming up in this week's episode of the podcast as well. In fact, I just want to get to that right now.
After 70 million years. Dinosaurs! Roaring, walking, destroying. Dinosaurus! The most amazing adventure since the beginning of time. Dinosaurus! For these people, there could only be shock and dismay. For who among them could believe that out of the primordial slime had come these creatures? The huge Brontosaurus, the ferocious Tyrannosaurus, even a primitive caveman. Panic-stricken, horrified, did they have the courage, the ingenuity to survive?
How do we get word out, Hacker? Mailboat will be in tomorrow morning. By tomorrow, we could all be dead.
We are going to be friends, you and me.
Sights never before seen on the screen. A 60-ton dinosaur tamed by a small boy and a caveman. A caveman loose in a modern home. The death duel of the dinosaurs. A girl caught by the dread Tyrannosaurus. The battle between giant monster and monster machine. The moat of fire.
It's holding him. Yeah, but for how long?
It's all new. The creature walks among us, more terrifying in human form. Striking at the heart of the city with inhuman fury. The creature walks among us. Horror unleashed by the daring of man and a dangerous experiment of science.
I have burned away the outer scale. There's a structure of human skin underneath it.
The creature walks among us. The grimmest cargo ever brought to civilization. Now a monster made even more frightful by human emotions. Plus Merle Oberon, Lex Barker in The Price of Fear. Two great thrill pictures on one program.
Live from the Land of Light in Nebula M78, home of the mighty Ultra Heroes, it's Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule Review.
Ultraman Taro, Episode 17. Two giant monsters close in on Taro. Original air date July 27th, 1973. Mount Okuma erupts. Exposed in the blast, are a mysterious egg and strange silkworms that burrow into the local watermelon crop. Kotaro travels to the vicinity and pays a visit to the Okumayama Earthquake Laboratory, taking some watermelons with him. The father of Kenichi's classmate Takashi works at the lab, and he accepts a melon as a gift. Takashi does too, and takes the melon home, where, on a hunch, he cuts into it with a knife. A large worm jumps out and sprays Takashi in the eyes before escaping. While ZAT is investigating, Mount Okuma erupts again, and Kaiju Birdon is launched from the flames. Earthquake Lab scientists observing the eruption are attacked by another worm released from the melon being kept there. Birdon descends upon the lab, eating not only the Chemgilla silkworms, but also some of the workers, and injuring Takashi's father in the process. One Chemgilla rapidly evolves into a bipedal form, drawing Ultraman Taro into battle. But the hero has a difficult time with the monster, and that's before Birdon arrives on the scene. Episode 17, which ends on a cliffhanger, epitomizes the things the series does well. There are ample special effects, 2 monsters, 3 if you count the larval worms, and engaging storylines. Yet again, a child yearns for their father to be home more often, with the added dramatic twist that Kotaro inadvertently brings tragedy upon the family by giving them the infested watermelons. There's even a human dangling from a kaiju scene, a firmly established trademark of the series. There are some echoes of Toho's monster stable in Birdon, whose origin seems deliberately patterned after Rodan's volcanic beginnings, and Chemgilla, a silkworm whose larval stage is quite Mothra-esque, complete with silk spray ability. And for the first time in recent memory, Taro's warning light begins to blink, ratcheting up the tension for the next installment, which the traditional post-episode teaser reveals will include Ultra Brothers Offie. For Bride of Monster Kid Radio's Beta Capsule review, this is Mark Matzke reporting.
Police headquarters? This is Carter. Johnny Carter.
Oh, sure, they're from another planet.
What a dilemma for young lovers Steve Terrell and Gloria Castillo.
He thought I was kidding him.
Nobody will believe the invasion of the Saucer Men. All this makes it seem natural for a beer-drinking bull to appoint himself chaperone of Lover's Lane.
Hey, for Pete's sake!
And a farmer with the longest shotgun you've ever seen plays the villain.
What's so funny?
Well, I expected to be frightened on my wedding night, but nothing like this.
It's our busy night, too. We've been flooded with calls from people who say they've seen flying saucers and little green monsters. Wonder how that rumor ever got started.
It's too fantastic to believe.
Just think of it. Only this special unit and the President of the United States will know what happened here tonight.
You mean you think we know what's happened?
The Time Machine. Now, from MGM comes the picture that crashes the time barrier, that takes you on an exciting, romantic journey into the future. 800,000 years into the future, that shows you the shape of things to come. The Time Machine. George Pal's production of H.G. Wells' fabulous novel, The Time Machine. You are there as the years fly by, faster than the speed of light. The years unfold before you, age after age of endless time. The Time Machine, rocketing across the giant screen in flaming color. See the future before it happens. The Time Machine.
Rated G.
Program to bring you a special bulletin from CBS News. I'm Charlie Dugdale. I'm reporting from Bob Burns' backyard in Burbank, California, USA.
Who are Bob and Kathy Burns?
Let me think about it for a while. Let's see if I can tell you.
Bob and Kathy Burns.
Bob and Kathy Burns.
Bob and Kathy Burns.
Who am I today? Well, let me see.
Bob and Kathy Burns were smart enough to preserve almost every important artifact in sci-fi movie history.
They're archivists of an entire generation of practical effects that will no longer be with us. Because of CGI, all the stuff that you see in this basement is going away. They don't do this anymore.
Every piece has a story. Bob isn't just a collector. He's lived all of this stuff.
He had his own career in entertainment, but he always was a fan, and even more than a fan, Bob and Kathy both drew around them a group of people, mostly kids, who went on to change the face of the business.
Bob and Kathy, to me, are family. They're just such genuinely nice, loving, caring people.
Bob and Kathy are known by a lot of people because of their Halloween shows.
And they started very small in the front yard in Burbank.
Every kid in every neighborhood wishes that they had somebody like Bob living there to do this cool stuff.
The pedigree of Oscar winners and Oscar nominees and the talent.
People like Dennis Murin and Skotax and Woodruff, Baker.
They all decide, now we can come together and do things for just us. And we don't have to worry about the studios, we don't have to try to make anybody happy. And they throw all their ideas in the pot, and we mix it all together, and we come up with these brilliant plans.
I've said many times before, and I mean it, I'm the luckiest guy in the world. I wouldn't have changed anything for the time I was born. And that's what it's all about. And that's what Kathy and I've always tried to do, is have a great time.
Your humor is what's kept this whole thing alive.
Really?
You betcha.
Oh, I'm sorry about that.
I'd like to invite our special guests forward to join us here on stage. Frank Dietz of Record. John Goodwin coming down the aisle in there. And Chris Wavis. All right, very good. Have a seat. Now we'll pass this over here. I'll get you one.
Hi, folks. I hope you enjoyed the movie. I thank you for coming, by the way. Appreciate it's been a long time since we screened this movie anywhere, and it was very nice to come here to Portland, Hollywood Theater, and be able to show it to you folks.
So, to open things up, a question I have. I was wondering if you three could share your most special memory of Bob and Kathy, or how you first met.
So, I knew about Bob and Kathy through the grapevine, through other friends, and through the coverage of Starlaw that did be. Yeah, Starlaw, yeah. And of course, I wanted to be Bob Burns at that point. I met Bob Burns first when I was doing Gremlins, because he brought the time machine for one of the scenes. I don't remember I was going very crazy on the movie, but he remembered. But we were invited to a festival in Japan, and we were on the same flight. And we headed off like you wouldn't believe. I mean, it was just astonishing. It was like I found my long-lost brother who also had my best toys from my childhood. So, and you had Bob's Mars playset collector, which I was as well. And so we just found all these different levels of connection. And, we got on the plane as strangers and got off the plane as best friends. And it was just a fantastic experience. And it just went uphill from there.
Well, I had known about Bob Burns from one issue of a magazine called Fantastic Monsters, which is in there just a little bit. And he was different than the other monster magazines, showed you how to make a life mask and things like that. So I knew who Bob was, and I got picked out of the audience by Rick Baker at my first science fiction convention at the Old Ambassador Hotel. And, he did a wax thing on me or something. And he had done 2 days on The Exorcist, and I was raising my hand all one day. So, and then afterwards we're talking, I said, I'd really like to meet Bob Burns, because he's into so many things that I'm into, and I want to see the time machine. He said, he gave me the address, and he said, just go up and knock on the door. Well, I was pretty shy. I just never could do it. You drive by I think I drove by the house. I was renting a house somewhere else, Pass Avenue. I wasn't even that far away. And I just couldn't do it. And it looked like an ordinary house. And I'm going, no, this can't be the right place. All this wonderful stuff you see, and it's just an ordinary looking house. So I was somewhere else where they were showing Major Mars Connor's The Universe. And I had heard about that. And I still think, after all these years, it's the finest short film ever made. And I had to go up to him after that. And then we started talking, and we, went and had food and the whole thing. And his favorite comedian was Jonathan Winters, and my favorite comedian was Jonathan Winters. And we just bonded. And the one thing that I guess was said in the movie, but the great thing about the Bob Burns and Kathy Burns experience is it brought all these people together. I wouldn't have met either of these two guys if it hadn't been for Bob and Kathy Burns. They were kind of the hive, and all the bees came around, and you met people and had fun with them. I'll pass it on.
There was a little shop in Burbank that was run by a friend of ours, Taylor White, and it was called Creature Features. And if you were into monsters, if you were into sci-fi, if you were into fantasy, this was the store that you would go to. And I think I had just recently moved to LA and drove by this store one day, and I was like, oh, that's a store that I need to be shopping at. And so I started going in there, and I started making these little, remember Shrinky Dinks? I don't remember what Shrinky Dinks are, right? It was like a plastic sheet, and you would draw on it, and you put it, and you cut it out. We put it in the oven, it would shrink down to like tiny. And I started making these monster versions of these Shrinky Dinks, and then gluing a magnet on the back of it. And they were really cool. And Taylor at Creature Features said, hey, you want to sell them here? And I was like, sure, absolutely. So we started putting them up, and apparently everybody started talking about them. And I'm in there one day, and this man taps me on the shoulder, and I turn around, and he says, are you the guy that makes these? It's like, yeah, they're mine. He was like, how do you do uppers? And I actually kind of recognized who he was, because everybody had read that Starlock magazine, right? We knew about the Halloween stuff and we read that, but I was so thrilled. I mean, this was like, for me, this was meeting a celebrity, somebody that I never imagined I would ever meet. And so, like everybody else, immediately hit it off, because Bob hits it off with everybody. Right away, he embraces you, he takes you on as like, to this day, I still call him Pops and he calls me Sonny. And, it's lovely. So that's how we met. And then as it happened, Leanne and I were both working at Disney, and we were looking for a place to live in the Burbank neighborhood that would be close to the studio, but also that our kids could go to the good schools in Burbank and everything like that. Leanne found this house that was available, and she told me, she goes, here's the address, go and take a look at the outside of the house. You won't be able to go inside, but just look at the outside, tell me what you think. And so I drove over to the address and I pull up and I'm like, this neighborhood seems familiar, like where? And then I suddenly realized Bob and Kathy Burns lived right around the corner from this house. And I was like, sold. We're taking it because I don't care what it costs. I want to live around the corner from Bob and Kathy Burns, and lived next to them for many, many years. And that's kind of how everything else happened. Me being involved in the Thing show that they did, that last Halloween show, and eventually making this movie.
So, talk a little bit about the network of FX artists and people that were drawn to Bob and Kathy, how that kind of evolved specifically. We saw it in the film, but all of the stuff they just acquired, it was kind of like, things that people just would keep giving and keep, and to talk a little bit about that, the nature of that relationship and the influence that he had on those folks.
Well, Chris, do you want to? I'll take it a bit.
Like you, Starf. So getting into the business, doing Rubber Monster stuff and whatever, at that point, as was pointed out, the studios didn't want anything. They didn't save it much of anything unless they really thought they would get it recycled in another film or something. So most of it was thrown away, or the producers would take it home and use it for a couple of Halloweens, and then it would wind up in the dumpster. We as professionals knew Bob really appreciated this stuff, and we put a lot of work into this stuff. So knowing that there's somebody out there who loves the work and is going to take care of it is kind of like this wonderful godsend. You've suddenly had a depository for your efforts. And the best part about that was that it wasn't just giving Bob something he's going to take care of. He learned everything about it. He made sure the truth was told. You had a favorite anecdote about something, he'd remember. He had all that down. He didn't misrepresent the stuff to people, which was very common at that point. People would just sensationalize stuff, to just make stories up about the materials they find. And Bob's like, no. He was such an archivist and historian. He was really the guy to go to get the truth about this stuff. So his value for us professionals was even greater, I think, than it was for all of fandom, which was pretty great.
Yeah, and I think also that once word spread about the collection and about all the different people who had provided props to this collection, it then became a sort of rite of passage for younger special effect guys to bring something to Bob and to lay it down, offering, if you will, yeah. And he really did. And so, the amount of stuff that started coming into their house, they couldn't even keep on top of it for the most part. Right, John?
Oh, well, it's a conundrum because you make something and it works in a movie or television show, and you like it, but it served its purpose. You can't keep everything that you make. It's unhealthy anyway, because then you go, oh, gee, I'll do something like that. No, you want to get rid of the stuff, but then you don't want to throw it away either. And so you bring it over to Bob and Kathy's, and you wanted to give him something good, because he knew his stuff, and they both did. And so you bring something nice over, and they go nuts. And, oh, look at that. And they know exactly what it was. And you're just vindicated. It's better than an award. You've got something at Bob and Kathy's museum. But then it went on overload. I mean, they only have a certain, size house. And suddenly, it's just piles of stuff, all of it great. But, in recent years, makeup effects people, whatever, will make something. You go, gee, I'd like to give this to Bob and Kathy. I think they'd like it, but there's no rope left.
You know what? One of the nice parts about it too was that everybody was treated equally.
when it came to Bob and Kathy. It didn't matter if it was Tom and Alec bringing them the giant head of the graboid worm from Tremors, or it was some young new makeup artist who had done some really cool sculpt or something like that. I mean, they treated everything with the same amount of enthusiasm and appreciation
And respect.
and respect. Exactly.
And when you did the Halloween shows, I came in late on those, but the esprit de corps was everything that you wanted a movie to be and never was. You met people you had worked with maybe, but suddenly there's a common bond. Oh, wouldn't it be fun if we did this? Wouldn't we do this? And there you go. Oh, you worked at Universal. Hey, did you think? Yeah, that was a crawl. But you bonded with everybody. And it was a magic time. I mean, you were creating stuff and a part of a show, and you just, I think if I had gone to Hollywood and just done a Bob and Kathy Burns show, I would be fulfilled.
Let's open it up for questions. Does anybody have any questions?
And Bob and Kathy thought about the legacy of stuff after they pass?
Yes.
To take care of this?
Yeah. They have... The best I can say is that they have a plan. All right. They have worked out where things are going to go. They've been working on this for a very long time, so that there's no question and there's no people coming and trying to take things from them. They know exactly where everything is going to go. At least I think most of it.
I'd like to go on record at this point. From my point of view, my personal point of view, it's keeping the Bob and Kathy Burns collection together somehow. That's just...
Yeah, if that's possible. I mean, we'd all love to see that. We'd hate to see it scattered to the wind like Forrest J. Ackerman's collection after he passed. Nobody knows where that stuff is anymore. And that's a shame. And it's a loss to all of us who appreciate this heritage of material. One thing that I wanted to mention before I forget too is that I didn't do this alone. Okay, I had a partner, Trish Geiger, and it's kind of an interesting story of how this happened. Now, you got to understand that, I never thought that I or Trish and I would be the ones to make this movie. I always assumed that Joe Dante was going to make this movie, or John Landis was going to make this movie, or somebody like that. And it just kind of happened organically. You saw some scenes in the film here from a movie that Trish produced called Dark and Stormy Night. It was the last time that Bob put on the Tracy suit. And he had just a cameo in the movie. He tricked Larry Lamire into getting a cameo in that movie. And so he came to the set one day, and it was like, you saw, behind the scenes stuff, and it was just wonderful that it was even part of it. And so when the movie was finished, they sold it to Shout Factory. And Shout Factory was like, well, do you have any behind the scenes extra stuff and Trish had filmed some stuff, but she hadn't filmed an interview with Bob. And so she called me up and she said, I know you're a good friend of Bob's. Can you think we could go over to his house and we could just do a quick little interview that I can give to Shout Factory? So we went over there and we just did this little 5-minute thing, maybe 10 minutes at the most, of me interviewing Bob and Bob being his usual self. And while we were doing it, Trish is always interested in what else is going on. And Kathy, who had always been behind the scenes, she was always like the person behind the curtain watching to make sure everything was going right. Well, Trish did something that most people never did. She suddenly turned the camera on to Kathy, and Kathy started talking about the excitement of seeing people come together and create, use their imaginations and create things. And Trish became absolutely infatuated with that. And that's what actually talking to Kathy is what made us start to go, maybe there's more than just a 5-minute little interview thing here. Now, as it happens, Shout Factory decided not to use that footage. If they had, I don't know if we ever would have made this movie. Because, we'd be like, all right, we did that. So we we were talking about it, and we were at a party one night at David J. Scow's house, the writer of The Crow, and we met this editor named Andrew Cash, and he had just edited a really great documentary called Never Sleep Again, which was the whole legacy of the Help Street movies. And I had seen it, and it was wonderful. I thought I would even like the Elm Street movies, and I thought this was a fascinating documentary. So we're talking to him, and we say, well, we're thinking maybe we might do a documentary about Bob Burns. And he went, oh my God. He goes, I tell you right now, if you do crowdfunding, you go Kickstarter, whatever, you raise the money, he goes, I will edit the entire thing for $1,000. And that's nothing, by the way. That's not a lot of money at all. And that was it. That, like, literally 2 days later, we were creating the Kickstarter campaign, and it was amazing how many people came out of the woodwork to help. We reached the goal immediately, and boom, we were making a movie like that fast. And the cool part was, once we had the money and we were starting, what happened next was what was really crazy. Everybody just came to us and said, how can we help? What do you need? They all, because of the love for Bob and Kathy, they're like, Rick Baker. Rick Baker was like, hey, you could use my studio. You come and use my studio. I've got great backgrounds you can use. Tom and Alec of ADI, use our studio. Whatever. Some people offered money. Some people offered lights. Some people offered cameras. The amount of love that just poured out enabled us to make this movie so quick. We made this movie in like 4 months, from beginning to end. And the coolest part about it was, because Trish and I were receiving all this love from all these people, we actually kind of got to feel what it was like to be Bob and Kathy. I mean, it was remarkable, and it was lovely, and I don't know that we'll ever we've made other documentaries and other films and everything like that. I don't know that there'll ever be anything that was so just gratifying as making this movie.
You have another question?
BMS. Another question?
I just want to do what Kathy did for work.
Oh, you would ask that, yeah.
Well, Kathy, that's one thing I should talk about a little bit. The movie gets into it, but even if they didn't have a collection, Bob and Kathy Burns are unique. I mean, Bob started out in the mailroom at CBS, and he was a film editor at CBS and played gorillas in the movies. And Kathy is a woman of many parts, too. She worked for the Walter Marish Company for a long time and did a number of different things. When Walter Marish just came out with that biography he wrote of the company a couple of years ago, we went to the signing, and right away he stood up and said, Kathy, how are you? The whole thing. She was a big part of that cloister of production people. And then after she married, she worked at Universal and put together the whole newsletter. That doesn't sound that impressive, but it was then. The newsletter at Universal was watchword. Everybody read it, and she would go and interview people like Jimmy Stewart and all the stars. And the one with Jimmy Stewart I remember because she said, I had cleared 20 minutes and I had my questions ready, and he saw that I was prepared, and they spent the whole afternoon together. So that was one of the best interviews with Stewart that was ever done. Also, Kathy is like just one of the most wonderful still photographers that I've ever seen. Some of her, the prizes she's won. When she could, she went to Africa. You think you've seen wild animal pictures before? I'm sure Kathy was probably in danger of her life with the pictures she got. So they're both Renaissance people. They represent many different aspects, and say they certainly lived life to the full. So,
any other questions?
I was wondering what each of your favorite crop is on display inside a boxing.
Yeah, we had a whole segment in the movie about that, and it just we had to take it out because it was just too overwhelming. But because there's so much. I think for me,
it's tough. But if I really had to choose, he's got Glenn Strange's Frankenstein boots from Abbott Costello Me Frankenstein. And I actually once got to put them on. Right? And oh my God. And what's so funny is that like, they were the boots from the movie, but then they were altered so that Glenn could do personal appearances as the Frankenstein monster at openings and things like that, or spoof shows. And so a pair of Glenn's actual shoes were basically planned inside the food so that it would be more comfortable for him to wear. And so when I got to when Bob was just like, great, go and put them on, right? And I put them on, and my feet fit perfectly in those shoes. And I was in such heaven. But here's the thing is that it was at a convention in the summertime, and I think it was out in Pittsburgh, somewhere around there. So I'm wearing a Hawaiian shirt and shorts. And I got these pictures of me in a Hawaiian shirt and shorts with these gigantic Frankenstein boots on. It kind of killed the whole sugar. But yeah, I mean, I think that's my favorite. There's so much. My God, it's hard to see.
Oh, well, this is the experience that everybody had when they first walked into the museum. Now, you're ready for the time machine. You're ready for the Nautilus. I love the Jules Verne, H.G. Wells, Moana. But what you do is you walk through and you go, oh my, that's the... No, and there are so many of those things. One thing that sticks in my mind where I did that number was like going, I'm looking at something, I'm going, that's the head from Dinosaurus. That's where they throw the flame in there. And I couldn't get over it. It was just, there it was. And there's the King Kong wall that's sculpted in clay. You get hundreds and hundreds of things, but sometimes you know about the big things and then you just see something else.
And I think that's a big part of the collection that we were referring to before, in that Bob really respects everything he has. It's all there, from the greatest film you've ever seen to the worst film you've avoided seeing. But it's all there, it's all about it. It's wonderful. For me, though, it's the time machine. But that's personal as well, because I got to go there with my wife and daughters. Oh, no, baby. Julia didn't go, did you? I can't remember. Let's go back in time. Anyway, so my daughters were quite young, and they knew the movie. I showed all the good movies. And Bob's there, kind of going, so yeah, what do you think? And then my kids are like, oh, big Google eyes. And she go, and then Bob's kind of leads in, kind of person, oh, go sit in it. Go sit it. And I'm like, yeah. They're children in the time machine. No. We have this one great photo of the kids in the time machine, and the grins are so big and so huge on their face. And for me as a dad, to see something that meant so much to me as a kid means so much to my kids, wonderful reward. And that's Bob Burns, So I thought it's something personal.
So, you saw the footage. The museum is packed. I mean, it is packed from floor to ceiling practically. And there's crazy valuable things all over the place, right? And we used to say that the worst sound that you could possibly hear when you're walking through the museum is... It's terrible. It's like we see kids going there with backpacks on, and we're like, oh, no. So afraid it's going to get hooked on the creature from the Black Lagoon and bring the whole wall down. It is very, very full.
Any other questions? One right there.
Well, I was wondering how fragile materials become over time, the latex and the rubber, and how things actually deteriorate, and also the hair on a lot of the costumes. Do they have chemicals in if they share a prop ever?
Well, these guys, the effects guys, can answer that better, but I just know that they do occasionally have to have certain pieces restored. There's a guy in New York named Tom Spina who has restored the American Werewolf in London and some of the Star Wars characters that they have and so forth. But I mean, you guys about.
And also there was some damage to the collection during an earthquake years ago. I remember what pieces were damaged, but there was a pretty serious damage to a few of the props. And sure enough, the Crows came in and said, "We will fix that for you. We will make it as good or better than it was when the acid happened." He has, Bob and Kathy have so many people who care so much about them. They appreciate the collection. They appreciate the pieces, but they're doing it for Bob and Kathy.
This is rather technical, but I'm in the age of what's called foam latex, where you make the prosthetics out of foam latex. And foam latex today, when you mix it, or the past 20 years, it's not something that has a long life, particularly under fluorescent lights and things like that. It begins to crumble. Bob really takes care of this stuff. I gave him an original life mask of Kirk Douglas from List of Adrian Messenger. And of course, you give something to Bob, and he's, "Oh, thank you very much." He goes into the closet, brings out a paper bag, takes out one of the original appliances made out of foam latex by Chris Mueller at Universal, and fits it right onto the mask. He had taken care of the foam latex. He kept it out of lights. He kept it in a bag. He kept it in the closet. So he knew how to treat the stuff. And the stuff that is made out of latex that needs to be restored. There, like you say, a lot of people that jump at the chance.
I think isn't there? It's almost like that place is magical, because there are certainly some things in that collection that should have fallen apart by now, and for some weird reason they have not. I think there's a Glenn Strange headpiece that is still in perfect condition from 1948 or something. And it doesn't make sense, and maybe that's just the magic of the place.
Got time for one more question. Anyone else have one more question?
Is there anyone else doing Halloween shows like this? Has that inspired anyone to keep going?
Not like that. Because the difference was, there's a lot of people in Burbank who, and I know in Portland here too, who do big, great Halloween setups and they do walkthroughs and all that kind of stuff. But the difference is that we were putting on plays. These were plays that we would do 20 times a night. And, we just keep moving people through. When we did the thing, I was playing Captain Hendry, but I would trade off with Dan Roebuck. I would do 5, and then he would do 5, and then I would do 5, and then he would do 5, and we would just take off the jacket, put it on. It was pretty gnarly by the end of the evening. But we did that for 6 nights straight. And it was all timed. It was all timed out. It was set to music. We had a score. Chris Drake was a composer, works all the time now. He recreated this score, and we had to time our movements to the score. And so it was really tricky. And so, I think in that sense, it elevated it beyond the other kinds of Halloween shows that maybe other people do.
Yeah, I think you made a point and changed my mind about what I was going to say. But, 20, 30, 40 years ago, it was fans who had loved movies and all these people that came together. Today in Burbank, we have Halloween stores that are there, all through the year. It's the mass culture has discovered the whole thing. But I think you're right, though, Frank. It's not necessarily past. It's just somebody that wants to bring the talent and the imagination and the hard work to do it. And I always thought it was a good choice that they chose a classic film to base things on, because it gives it, a track to be on.
All right. Thank you very much for coming out tonight. Thank you to Chris, John, and Frank for sharing about East Coast.
Great. Thank all you guys for coming out. Really appreciate it.
Thank you. Have a good day.
So I've done some checking, and you can actually find Beast Wishes, it looks like, on Tubi as well. It's a great documentary. It came out in 2012. It's so cool, though. It's a snapshot at a period in time in Monster Kid fandom, and it really does go over the legacy and kind of give you a taste of how important Bob and Kathy Burns were to a part of the Monster Kid community. So I would highly recommend y'all check it out. Also, while you're at it, why don't you check out the rest of Benevolent Monsters Productions, their King Kong documentary, Long Live the King. So good. Highly recommended that as well. It's got the Monster Kid Radio, Bride of Monster Kid Radio, Derek M. Cook, Team Death, whatever you want to call it, seal of approval. Now you can find out everything you need to know about Monster Kid Radio and everything else that we do over on our website at monsterkidradio.net, where you're going to find links to everything that we've talked about, as well as links to all of our contact information, but I'm just going to tell you what it is right now. monsterkidradio@gmail.com. That's our email address. You can also call or even leave us a text message at 360-524-2484. That voicemail line does have a hard 3-minute limit, but if you have more than 3 minutes worth of things to say, you can always call back and leave a part 2 or part 3, and I'll just edit everything in post and make it sound like one smooth voicemail. So feel free to call in or write in. If you have any thoughts or memories of Bob Burns, that would be awesome to share with the crew here at Bride of Monster Kid Radio as well, as we'd love to include that in a future episode. We've also got links to all of our, well, almost all of our social media outlets. You can find us on Facebook, X, Blue Sky, Reddit, and Patreon. Patreon.com/MonsterKidRadio is where you can find us over there, where you can support us financially by helping out a little bit. Or if you just want to subscribe to the Patreon for free, you can do that too. And it's important that you do that because this is the only way you're going to find out in advance what's coming up on future episodes of Bride of Monster Kid Radio. In the middle of the week, typically, I post the show notes on all the different social media outlets that we have, Instagram and everywhere else. But on Patreon, instead of the whole coming soon on Monster Kid Radio or Bride of Monster Kid Radio, stay tuned, it'll tell you what it is. And if you want to know what's coming up on the next episode, this is the only place I'm going to let people know. So you got to be a member of the Patreon. And like I said, you can do it for free. We are nearing the very end of the year. In fact, this is the final episode of 2025. So I'd like to put a call out. What are some of your monster goals for 2026? Do you have any Monster Kid aspirations, goals, plans, whatever it is you want to call it, resolutions? We'd love to hear from you as well and maybe include that in an upcoming episode of the podcast. I will tell you, even though I just got done telling you, you'll only find out if you follow us on Patreon, I am going to talk a little bit about what's coming up in 2026 on the next episode, and I'd love to hear from you as well. Are you a monster podcaster? Shoot. Call in and let us know what you got coming up, because the stronger the community is, the better it is for all of us. That's something that I think we can all learn and take away from the legacy of Bob and Kathy Burns. Bride of Monster Kid Radio is a Team Death production. All original content of Bride of Monster Kid Radio is licensed under a Creative Commons Attribution, Non-Commercial, No Derivatives 4.0 Unported license. You can learn more about Team Death, our other projects like Death Designs, Mail Order Zombie, the Team Death YouTube channel, and more at www.teamdeath.com. Remember, death is spelled D-E-T-H. All previous episodes of this podcast, as well as the original Monster Kid Radio podcast, are available at www.monsterkidradio.net. Please rate and review Bride of Monster Kid Radio wherever you download your favorite podcasts. The Quiet Beach is copyright 2025, The Deaf Surfers. It comes from their album Back in Time, and you can find that at thedeafsurfers.bandcamp.com. Check them out. Let them know that you heard about them here on Bride of Monster Kid Radio. My name is Derek M. Cook. I'll talk to everybody next week. Next year. Ciao.